Manx Radio's Update with Beth Espy.
Well, first am I, and welcome to Update, a roundup of what's been happening around the Isle of Man, and also today what we can expect to happen weather-wise over the next 12 hours or so. We'll head down live to the Met Office in just a couple of minutes, and also thinking about the weather, we'll have some advice for you about how to drive to the conditions when it's a little bit icy out there. Also tonight, the latest on the planned sewage treatment works for Garth, and later I'll let you know about a very special Manx woman who is, as we speak, making her way home. And as ever, if you spot anything to let us know about on the roads when you're out and about, and you can let us know, that would be great. You can text 166 177, or you can email us studio@manxradio.com. We'll start as ever with a news roundup with Lewis. Fast am I.
To start, if you're about to head home, be aware the mountain road is still closed due to snow and ice. Icy conditions have been affecting many roads around the island today, with motorists advised to drive carefully. Another yellow weather warning for snow showers will come into effect in an hour. We'll have those details shortly. The inquest into the death of a Crosby man who died last year has been opened at Douglas Courthouse today. 22-year-old Robert George Kissack was hit by a car on Whitebridge Road in Onchan on the 29th of December. Barclays has announced it's to close its branch in Ramsey later this year. The bank says it's taken the difficult decision to shut the Parliament Street outlet on the 11th of April. It comes less than 2 months after Lloyds Bank announced it too would be closing its branch in the town. And an MHK has questioned the accuracy of statistics which appear to indicate a 15% increase in the number of people being seen at Noble's Hospital over the last decade.
I have had contact from a number of constituents, and people are concerned that the figures perhaps do include Ramsey.
Onchan's Julie Edge wants a breakdown of figures released by the DHSC, which show almost 265,000 people attended 4 areas: accident and emergency, radiology, outpatients and operations. In the latest international news now, 2 people have died in California wildfires that are raging through suburbs of Los Angeles. The chief of the LA Fire Department's warning the state isn't out of danger yet, despite huge disaster resources poured into taming the flames. The UK Prime Minister's warned the Conservatives' push for a national inquiry into grooming gangs won't help victims of child sexual abuse. Tory leader Kemi Badenoch had claimed Sir Keir Starmer's refusal to back her call would lead to accusations of a cover-up. And drinking a glass of milk every day may help slash the risk of developing bowel cancer. Scientists believe it may be linked to the calcium content of the beverage. Those are the headlines. I'll be back with the news at 6 o'clock.
Thank you very much indeed, Lewis. Now the weather brought to you by Manx Glass and Glazing. And since we've got those 2 yellow weather warnings in force, one of them coming in at 6 p.m, we thought we'd go live to the Met Office and join Stuart Davison, who can tell us the very latest. Good evening, Stuart.
Hello there, good evening. So cloudy and dry to start, and then a risk of those wintry showers developing later on during this evening and continuing overnight. So these showers falling as a mixture of sleet and hail to low levels and snow or hail to higher ground. But those showers are going to be very hit and miss, so any accumulation will be localised. Then with clearing skies in between the showers, icy stretches are expected to develop overnight. Light winds and the minimum temperature of around -2 degrees Celsius. Into tomorrow then, it'll be a cold and potentially icy start to the day. These wintry showers tending to peter out as the day progresses. Otherwise tomorrow, sunny spells with a freshening north or northwest wind and a top temperature of 5 degrees. On to Friday, it'll be dry for most of the day, turning cloudy after a bright start, and then some rain arriving overnight into Saturday, and that heralds the start of a little bit of a change from the cold conditions that we've got as milder air moves in. Briefly looking at the sea conditions then, there's no warnings in force, and the state of the sea smooth or slight, becoming slight or moderate later. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Stuart. And as you say, getting a little bit warmer then at the weekend. Are we expecting any other colder weather on the horizon? Can you predict that far ahead?
Yeah, so just a few days of cold weather and then changing to mild conditions as mentioned. Just looking at the charts in front of us here, it does look as if we're staying into a relatively milder period for maybe a week or 10 days. So, hopefully the cold snap is just for the next couple of days and then we'll get a bit of a respite.
Brilliant. Thank you so much indeed, Stuart. That is Stuart Davison with the weather, brought to you by Manx Glass and Glazing.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
Firestone Rubber Roof Shop for one-piece flat roofing systems. No joins, no leaks. We also line commercial box gutters in one piece up to 60 metres with a 20-year written warranty against leakage. Call Rubber Roof Shop on 49667.
A great night's sleep got even better with Zed's Bedding Store. From quality Beldorm bed linen and mattress protectors, fleece and woven throws to luxury duvets from the fine bedding company. Zed's Bedding Ramsey, next to Isle of Man Bank.
For a wide range of wood-burning stoves and a complete installation service, visit The Snug in Ramsey. And we don't stop there. Kiln-dried firewood and full aftercare service, including chimney sweeps and maintenance. Call The Snug in Ramsey.
Many people are struggling. You can help by volunteering or making a donation to Isle of Man Food Bank, whether it be food or essential items or financial support. Please call 646 999, brought to you by Descon Office Interiors.
You're listening to Update here on Manx Radio. It's just gone 6.5 minutes past 5. Now, the inquest into the death of a Crosby man who died in December has been opened at Douglas Courthouse today. News editor Tessa Hawley joins me in the studio now. Tessa was there at the opening. Tessa, just remind us, this concerns a crash which happened between Christmas and New Year. What more can you tell us?
That's right. So 22-year-old agricultural worker Robert Kissack died following the crash on Whitebridge Road in Onken, and that happened on the 29th of December. Now, today we heard that Mr Kissack, who was walking along the route in the early hours of the morning, was struck by a car near to the entrance to the Manx Fun Farm. That collision happened just after 3:30 that morning. Emergency services were called and took over resuscitation attempts from those who were at the scene. That included the car driver and their 2 passengers. And Mr Kissack was taken to Nobles Hospital. But the court heard he was pronounced dead there just over an hour later.
So what other information was shared in court today?
So we heard that Mr Kissack had suffered head and chest injuries in the collision, with a doctor telling police it was likely he was killed on impact. Investigations into the cause of the crash are continuing, and the driver of the vehicle was arrested and is now on police bail.
And what happens next, Tessa?
Coroner of Inquest James Brooks released Mr Kissack's body today so that funeral arrangements can take place, and offered his condolences to the family. The inquest will be reconvened at a later date once those investigations have been concluded.
Tessa, thank you. It's 8 minutes past 5. The Isle of Man's Information Commissioner has issued a decision notice following a complaint about Manx Care's handling of a Freedom of Information request. Well, to tell us more about this, we're joined now by Siobhan. What is all this case all about then, Siobhan?
Well, the complaint centred on how Manx Care responded to a request for detailed information related to an incident review form and its associated processes. The Information Commissioner found that whilst Manx Care was ultimately justified in withholding the information under exemptions in the Freedom of Information Act, there were significant failings in how the authority handled the request.
What kind of failings are we talking about here?
Well, the Commissioner highlighted several issues. So Manx Care failed to respond within the standard processing period and didn't properly justify its initial refusal. When the applicant requested an internal review, the authority didn't respond until the Information Commissioner stepped in. Perhaps most significantly, though, Manx Care neglected to carry out a reasonable search for the requested information before replying.
But yet the exemptions they applied were deemed appropriate.
That's right. Manx Care cited exemptions under Section 25, which relates to absolutely exempt personal information, and Section 11.3, which allows refusal on practical grounds. The Commissioner agreed that these were applied correctly in the end, meaning Manx Care was justified in withholding the information.
Do we know what happens next then?
The Information Commissioner has partially upheld the applicant's complaint and has ordered Manx Care to provide documentation on its freedom of information processes and training for review. This could result in recommendations or further action to improve their compliance in the future. Both Manx Care and the applicant have the right to appeal the decision and were given 28 days to do so.
And has Manx Care responded to this decision?
Not yet, but Manx Radio has approached them for comment.
Thank you very much indeed, Siobhan. Just coming up to 5:10. I should give you a quick warning here before this next story. We are going to be discussing sewage works. So if you're eating or planning to eat tea very shortly, now is your chance to dip the volume for a couple of minutes. Manx Utilities has responded to concerns about its plans for the Garth wastewater treatment works. To explain the latest developments to us, Christian is with us now. And Christian, first, would you just talk us through the background to this story?
Yeah, well, like Peel Bay, raw sewage is currently pumped out into the waters around Garth. In 2023, the Department of Environment, Food and Agriculture published a report which identified Laxey and Garwick as having high levels of fecal organisms, including E. coli. The plans for the treatment works have been subject to significant local concern, though, particularly around the proposed Axonville site. Residents raised worries during public engagement events in Laxey and Baldrine last November, highlighting issues like the site's proximity to homes and the potential impact on the environment.
So how has Manx Utilities responded to those concerns?
They've said they've considered over 50 locations before selecting Axonville, taking into account factors like traffic, land zoning and environmental impact. They've also assured the public that the project will go through a detailed environmental impact assessment, which will be publicly available as part of the planning process.
What about the earlier proposal for the Cairn site?
Well, interestingly, Manx Utilities did express disappointment that the Cairn proposal was rejected by the planning committee due to what they call little visible public support. But some residents at the recent event said they actually preferred that site, calling it cheaper, less disruptive and more practical.
Do we know what's going to happen next in the process then?
Well, further investigations are scheduled for February after an environmental scoping report is submitted. Cost estimates haven't been disclosed, but it's believed that combining treatment works for Laxey and Baldrine would add about 15% to the overall cost. Manx Utilities says it will work to minimise disruption during construction and that it doesn't anticipate ongoing issues like noise or odour once the facility is up and running.
Thank you so much, Christian. Of course, this is something we will keep an eye on how it develops in the weeks and months to come. 5:12.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
So the main thing is the mountain road is still closed. That's because of the icy conditions. It was pretty dicey in some areas of the Isle of Man this morning. We'll talk about more about that in just a moment. Nothing else specific that we are aware of, but as I say, 166 177 if there's anything you spot when you're out and about. Just having a quick look down at the airport, and the Edinburgh flight this evening looks like it's been cancelled. Everything else okay apart from that. And with regard to the sailings, the Manxman left Heysham at 2:30. It's expected into Douglas at around 6:15, and it is scheduled to leave again for Heysham at 7:30.
Ask how you can spread the cost interest-free at Quayside.
It is 5:13 now. We'll stay with a travel-related one because the Steam Packet Company needs to be run in a way that puts those using its services first. That comes from the chair of a committee that's been looking at how the company operates. The regulation of the Steam Packet Company Committee recently published its report, calling for a new sea services framework and suggesting the organisation could be run as a statutory board with a political chair instead of an arm's-length company. Jason Morehouse has been discussing the report and its recommendations with Sean.
Our report was really drawing to a conclusion as we went into the summer, and we weren't really happy in terms of what it would mean for the future of the people of the island and the company and the government. And we looked at various kind of possibilities. It really came to a head in the first sittings of this year in terms of how the Steam Packet was becoming a political football. We were having the Chief Minister putting his comments forward. We had the Enterprise Minister who was making contributions, with the DOI who were contributing. We also had the Treasury Minister, and it felt as though it was kind of the political football. And it was that kind of phrase, this is arm's length. We felt we needed to do something that actually gave the company a clear identity with a political ingredient. We have brought something to the table that's new, but we said if we can't have the new thing, could we actually have a better input from the Treasury? And in terms of the deadline date again, it's by the end of this year. So we're really wanting to see some big changes in the coming months.
In the conclusions that the report features, it says there should be limited political and government interference in how the steam packet runs day to day. Do you think having potentially a political chair would fly in the face of that a bit?
I think it's going to have to be very clear in terms of what that chair does and how that chair behaves. And it was interesting from both the Post Office and the MUA, there's a recognition that the political chair was able to bring in a voice of the people. And there is kind of, when you're a company, you're working for the profit, you're working to actually keep the business going, etc., etc. But as politicians, we've got that daily link with our constituents and the key stakeholders.
That's Chair of the Regulation of the Steam Packet Company Committee, Jason Morehouse, talking to Sian. Naturally, we invited the Steam Packet to comment on this. They provided us with the following statement. The Isle of Man Steam Packet Company acknowledges the publication of the Select Committee's report and its findings. While we cannot provide further comment until we've fully reviewed the findings and their potential impact on our operations, we remain committed to our role as the island's lifeline. We take this responsibility seriously and continue to work diligently to support the Isle of Man's economy, our freight customers, Isle of Man residents and visitors to our island. It's 5:16 An Onken MHK has questioned the accuracy of statistics indicating a 15% increase in the number of people being seen at Nobles Hospital over the past decade. Now, these figures were released by the Department of Health and Social Care and show almost 265,000 people attended 4 areas: accident and emergency, or ED, radiology, outpatients and operations. Now, Julie Edge wants more clarity on these figures. John Moss has been talking to her, and also a little later, former Health Minister Laurie Hooper.
Where my question came from the outset was actually from a document that was at the completion of the new Nobles Hospital site and the expectation of the numbers of patients that could go through the newly formed A&E at Nobles. But looking at these figures, I think that Ramsey Cottage Hospital has possibly been included in them. So I will be looking and seeking further detail.
So you say you think,
figures.
So you haven't been given that sort of detail on this?
Well, no, the answer's very clear, isn't it? It's just numbers all included together. But I have had contact from a number of constituents, and, people are concerned that the figures perhaps do include Ramsey. So, it's something that we do need to clear up to ensure the public are getting the accurate information.
At the end of the day, when you have cleared up this information, what do you want to do with it? What will this achieve?
My other concern with this is obviously the changes that have been made up at the Accident and Emergency Department, and particularly to the out-of-hours doctors service, which is called MEDS. So MEDS is clearly closing at certain times, and patients are then directed through A&E. So naturally, there's going to be an increase in the numbers going through A&E. But A&E in my day, when I worked in Nobles Hospital, was purely for accident and emergency, not because you need to see a GP.
Former Health Minister Laurie Hooper says he feels Anno Domini and the effect the passing of the years have on you and me is one reason for this substantial rise.
I honestly think these numbers are just telling us something we already know. There's been an increase in the number of operations, the number of examinations, the number of outpatient appointments, the number of A&E appointments. Generally speaking, demand across the health service is going up and has been going up for a very long time. And some of the numbers are quite stark in terms of the percentage increases. And a lot of that is to do, as anyone will tell you, is to do with having an ageing population. It's more to do with people that are here already needing to access the service more, and that's just a natural fact of life. I think as we all get older, we all need a bit more care, and especially through the health service. So nothing in that answer really should have been a surprise to anyone.
That's MHK's Laurie Hooper, and before that, Julie Edge. It's coming up to 5:20, so we know about this yellow weather warning for frost and ice that's remaining in force until midday on Friday. Emergency services urging motorists to take care on the roads. The Mountain Road is staying closed. The Cregnabar back road also shut. Well, Chris Smith is the police's road safety manager and has this advice for when you're out and about driving.
Make sure the vehicle's roadworthy, so make sure that all your lights are working, windscreen wipers, particularly with the heavy rain that we've had, so that it clears the windscreen. Just make sure that the tyres are above the legal tread depth, and when the constabulary put a message out for people not to drive because of the conditions, please adhere to it, because we don't want anyone putting themselves at risk, and drive to the conditions. In wet conditions, braking distances is at least doubled. So watch your speed and make sure that you keep enough distance from the vehicle in front as well. And it's about that. It's about keeping people safe. If we've put the message out not to travel because of the risk of the weather, it's the message that we want people to take up and not to ignore, because it puts themselves and other people at risk. Because if you get caught in floods, or if you get caught in other circumstances, somebody has to go out and get you, and it's usually the police that have to do that.
That is Chris Smith, the police's road safety manager. So some good advice there. We know it is a little bit icy. Do take care if you're out and about on your way home this evening. That yellow weather warning for frost and ice in place, as Stuart said, until Friday at midday. Then it might get a little bit warmer over the weekend. There could be some snow, certainly over higher ground, as we go through the night tonight as well. Now, the arrival of a premature baby in the neonatal unit at Nobles Hospital is far from unusual, unfortunately, but the unit's latest arrival is not a usual baby, and he is causing real excitement. It's a new mannequin purchased by the Henry Bloom Noble Healthcare Trust, and it replicates a baby born at 27 weeks. Siobhan has been up to meet him and find out more from the lead advanced neonatal nurse practitioner, Angela Albiston.
So he is high fidelity, so he breathes on his own. He has heart sounds, lung sounds. We can facilitate him having abdominal problems. His abdomen will change colour and distend. He also makes crying noises, breathing noises, and he changes colour himself as well. And we can intubate him, so put a breathing tube into his trachea. The vocal cords are very lifelike because they're 3D printed, and that just helps facilitate with our training and if we do ever come across this situation.
We don't have a really high birth rate on the Isle of Man, so you don't luckily come across loads and loads of neonatal babies that need the sort of treatment that you might have to practice with Henry. So why is that training so important then?
So because our birth rates are so low, and we don't have the exposure that other units do across, we only take babies that are above 32 weeks, and we transfer any babies lower than that gestation off island. But until that happens, we have to stabilise the baby, and it might take 24 hours, 48 hours before that baby is transferred across. So we need to make sure that we've got the skills to be able to stabilise the baby and keep the baby safe.
And you mentioned obviously some of the functions there and the 3D printed vocal cords, for example. How lifelike that is. Why is that such an asset then?
It's really difficult for people to kind of visualise that a mannequin is a baby. So, and Henry, he does look the most lifelike of mannequins that I've seen for babies. And we don't want to be telling them the abdomen is blue, the abdomen is distended. We want them to visualise it and act upon it as if it's a real life situation in live time as well. So all of those functions, they can visualise what's going on.
Neonatal nurse practitioner Angela talking to Siobhan there. You can find out more on the Manx Radio website and on our Facebook page as well. Now, I mentioned at the start of the programme about a very special Manx woman who's currently making her way home Florence Jean Prest, nee Looney, died recently at the age of 94, and it was her last wish that she be buried here on the Isle of Man. And she is currently being brought back home, accompanied by her children on the Manxman this afternoon. Her funeral is taking place tomorrow, and she'll be buried in the family plot, so it's incredibly emotional. I spoke to her son David earlier. He told me the Isle of Man ran through his mum's blood, so it was very important to them all that they fulfilled her last wish. And they have asked for the ship's horn to be sounded when they arrive, so if they hear it, I don't know if it's something that is allowed to happen, but if you do hear it, then that is what it's for. And we are hoping to speak to David about Florrie a little bit later this week. It's 5:25, sport time now with Rob.
Fast am I. First off tonight, Isle of Man athletes have secured 12 medals in total during this year's Lancashire Cross Country Championships. The successes, which include 3 gold medals, range from the under-11s age group up to veteran classes at Whitton Park in Blackburn on Saturday the 4th of January. The gold medals came courtesy of Leighton Curfey winning the boys under-11s race, Gail Shealy claiming victory in the V55 event, and the Northern AC under-20s squad claiming the top team position. It's understood to be the third most successful day the Isle of Man has had at the meeting in the last 32 years. Among the other highlights, Northern AC's Sam Perry claimed 2 podiums. He won silver in the under-20s race and bronze in the senior men's event. Perry's result in the senior men's race means only 2 Manx athletes have finished higher in that event, 2-time winner Keith Gerrard and Ollie Lockley, who managed a best finish of 2nd. You can see the full list of medal winners at manxradio.com. The Isle of Man under-14 girls hockey team has been praised for its efforts following a late 1-0 defeat to Timperley in the England Hockey Knockout Championships. A closely contested affair was decided through a Timperley strike with just 7 minutes remaining, with the Manx side unable to find a leveller late on despite applying pressure in the closing stages. Well, despite the defeat, coach Sam Franklin said the improvement of the group over the season has been impressive and the prospects for Isle of Man hockey are extremely positive. Castletown's Lauren Collister earned the Ireland squad's Player of the Match award, whilst the goalkeeping performance of Valkyre's player Darcy Gilbert was also highlighted. And in martial arts, up-and-coming Ireland Jiu-Jitsu competitor Alan Greenhalgh has put in a series of medal-winning performances during 2 recent competitions in Japan. The Summit Grappling Academy Isle of Man member scooped a gold medal and 2 silver medals during the recent Tokushima Open and Samurai Cup. First for Greenhalgh was the Tokushima Open, in which he managed silver medals in both the gi and no-gi divisions. A week later, Greenhalgh contested the Samurai Cup, going on to win the final and top spot via a submission finish. Well, following his success, the Academy says it celebrates Alan's success and looks forward to his continued growth in the sport.
Rob, thank you very much indeed. Now, it would be remiss of me, Rob, because we were having a discussion on Man and Line earlier about some creative names for gritters, and I understand you have come up with a few Manx-themed ones for us.
Yeah, I've just had thoughts running around in my head. I think the opening one was Sir William Chillery. That's the first one I came
brilliant.
up with.
That's fantastic.
One of the latest ones I came up with this afternoon, Sleater Kenyuk.
Oh, it's just almost too good. Come on, there's more. I can tell there's more.
We've got Richmond Chill.
Oh. Yeah, go on. I'm waiting. No, we're all waiting.
I can't just give them all the way. Lizzie Snowden.
Lizzie Snowden.
Play on Lizzie Holden.
Oh, gosh.
Cyclist.
I love it. I love it. I want you to come up with more for tomorrow. It's too good.
No pressure then.
No pressure. What did I come up with? House of
Freeze?
House of Freeze. Yeah, maybe I didn't come up with that. Was that you? Tim will chill. What about that?
Tim will chill.
We'll go with that. Yeah. Rob, thank you very much indeed. You'll be relieved to know it's the end of the programme. Coming up next, it is Spotlight with Howard Kane. Then Chris Kinley will be here live with Greatest Hits from 6. At 9, it's Country Road with Andy. And then Rianne will be looking after you from 10 with After Hours. As ever, for all tonight top story information, do go to the Manx Radio website. Keep up to date with what's happening on the roads. We will update our socials throughout the evening as well. So whatever you're doing, especially if you're out and about, do take care. Ben will be back with you with breakfast from 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, and I'll be with you with Man and Line from noon.